I never meant to kiss the CEO that morning. Hell, I wasn't even supposed to be on that floor during the day. As the night shift janitor at Medina Capital in New York, my world was mops empty hallways and the hum of fluorescent lights after everyone else had gone home. But that day, as I was finishing up an early spill on the 31st floor, a scream echoed from the executive boardroom. I dropped my bucket and ran in. There she was. Ava Delacroix, the young powerhouse CEO, sprawled on the polished oak floor, her face turning a sickly purple, her chest still. The room was full of suits, directors, VPs, all frozen like statues, shouting for help, but doing nothing. "Call 911," someone yelled, but no one moved toward her. I didn't think. I knelt down, tilted her head back, pinched her nose, and started CPR. My lips pressed to hers, breathe out, compress her chest, repeat. A woman gasped, "He's kissing her." Another voice boomed, "Security, get this pervert out." Rough hands grabbed my shoulders, a baton jabbed my side, pulling me away, but then she coughed, gasped for air, alive. As they dragged me out like trash, I caught their stares, disgust, fear. They saw a janitor in a gray uniform, not the man who just saved her life. You think a guy like me could turn a billion-dollar empire upside down, stick around, because that's exactly what happened next. That morning changed everything, but not in the way I'd hoped. My name is Bernard Gray, and at 35, I'm just a single dad scraping by in a cramped apartment in Queens, New York. I've been the night shift janitor at Medina Capital for 2 years now, a towering glass fortress in Manhattan where billion-dollar deals are made and people like me are invisible. I clean up after the executives, wiping away their coffee stains and crumpled memos, all while the city sleeps. It wasn't always like this. I used to be a technician fixing electrical systems in high-rises, making decent money. But then my wife Sarah died from a stroke right after giving birth to our son Eli. He was barely a week old when I buried her. That shattered me. I couldn't keep the day job. No one to watch Eli during the hours I was gone. So I switched to this mopping floors from midnight to dawn. It lets me be there for him. I get home at 5 a.m., change his clothes if he had an accident in his sleep, make breakfast, usually oatmeal or whatever's cheap, and walk him to the bus stop for school. Then I crash for 3 hours, wake up groggy, and do it all over again. Eli's 8 now, full of questions and energy that I barely have left to match. I never thought my half-forgotten skills would pull me into that boardroom. Back in community college, I took a year of pre-med classes, dreaming of something more. Money was tight, so I got my CPR certification at the local YMCA. It came with a discount on tuition. That piece of paper sat in my wallet like a relic until that scream pierced the air. When I saw Ava Delacroix collapsing, her face draining of color, instinct took over. The executive stood there, panicking but paralyzed. I couldn't just watch her die. Medina Capital is a world of polished marble and power suits where janitors like me fade into the background. I've overheard snide comments before, "Don't let the help linger," but I shrugged them off. What I didn't expect was the fallout from saving her. After they hauled me out, I tried to explain to security. She wasn't breathing. I had to do CPR. But they just shoved me toward the elevators, muttering about protocols. By the next night, my keycard wouldn't scan. I stood in the lobby like a fool, then got ushered into HR. The woman behind the desk slid a paper across allegations of inappropriate conduct. A blurry video from the boardroom had leaked internally, me leaning over Ava, my mouth on hers for the rescue breaths. Whispers spread like wildfire. That janitor assaulted the CEO while she was out. No one mentioned the compressions, the fact that I kept her heart going until the paramedics arrived. I begged them, check the footage properly. I saved her life. But she shook her head. "This is about the company's image, Mr. Gray. You're terminated effective immediately. No severance. I walked home in a daze, the subway blurring past. Eli greeted me at the door with his gap-toothed smile. "Dad, you're early. Did you get a day off?" I forced a grin, hiding the panic. We ate ramen that night again while I calculated bills in my head. Eli's after-school program was due next week. Without it, who'd watch him while I hunted for work? As he fell asleep, I lay on the lumpy couch listening to the drip from the leaky faucet, wondering why doing the right thing felt like a curse. Little did I know. In a hospital room across the city, Ava was waking up demanding answers about the man who'd brought her back from the brink. The days after that CPR incident blurred into a nightmare I couldn't wake from. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was just a bad shift. But deep down, I knew I'd crossed some invisible line in that gleaming tower. With my keycard dead and HR's cold dismissal ringing in my ears, I headed straight to the job listings on my cracked phone screen. Queens isn't kind to guys like me, single dads with spotty resumes and a kid depending on every paycheck. I applied for anything warehouse loader, night guard, even a dishwasher gig at a greasy diner near the subway. But the interviews? They went south fast. One hiring manager at a midtown office building squinted at my application. "Medina Capital, heard there was some incident up there. Care to explain?" I told him the truth. I'd performed CPR on the CEO when she collapsed. He leaned back, arms crossed. "Sounds heroic, but word's out about a video. Folks are saying it looked inappropriate." I felt my face heat up. Inappropriate, I'd saved her life, kept her heart pumping until the ambulance screamed in. But to them, I was just the janitor who dared to touch the untouchable. That rumor spread like poison, twisted versions of the story popping up on anonymous employee forums, painting me as some creep, preying on a vulnerable woman. No one mentioned the training, the certification in my wallet. They saw what they wanted, a low-wage worker overstepping. At home, Eli picked up on it quicker than I wanted. That first night without work, he bounded in from school, backpack slung low. "Dad, why are you home so early again? Did you quit?" His big eyes searched mine, and I hated lying, but what could I say? "Nah, buddy, just a schedule mix-up. How was math class? Why, we ate cereal for dinner, milk was running low, and I tucked him in, promising everything was fine." But as he drifted off, I sat in the dim kitchen staring at the stack of bills, rent overdue, Eli's after-school program fee looming like a guillotine. Without that, who'd watch him while I chased leads? My sister lived upstate too far to help daily. I paced the tiny living room, the floor creaking under my weight, replaying the boardroom chaos. Why hadn't anyone stepped up? Those executives with their fancy degrees and six-figure salaries just stood there yelling for help. And me. The guy with the mop, I acted, but action didn't pay the rent. A week dragged by, each day a grind of rejections. One potential boss outright laughed. "Sorry, pal, but with that stain on your record, you're toxic." Stain, I'd kept a woman breathing her pulse faint under my fingers until the pros took over. The hospital had even confirmed that Ava Delacroix was stable, her congenital heart condition caught just in time. But no one called to thank me. Instead, I got an email from Medina's legal team, a cease and desist warning me not to discuss the incident publicly. As if I had anyone to tell besides Eli, who was too young to understand. Little did I know across the city, in the sterile glow of Mount Sinai Hospital, Ava was piecing it together. I found out later from snippets she shared how she'd woken up, groggy tubes snaking from her arms, her first words a demand. "Who saved me?" Her assistant Marissa hesitated, mumbling about a janitor. Ava pressed for the security footage, watching it in her hospital bed, the grainy clip showing me bursting in, checking her pulse, starting compressions. "That's CPR," she'd said, her voice sharp despite the weakness. "Why the hell was he fired?" Marissa shifted uncomfortably. "HR said it was about protocol and the optics. A video leaked internally. People are calling it assault. Ava's eyes narrowed, that famous steel in her gaze returning. She demanded a meeting with the board, overriding doctor's orders to rest. I wasn't there, of course, but she described it to me months later, the sterile conference room, the directors fidgeting in their leather chairs. "Who authorized his termination?" she asked, her voice cutting like glass. One VP cleared his throat. "With respect, Ava, the footage looks bad. A janitor, intimate contact with you while unconscious if it hits the press." Another chimed in. "We prioritize the company's image. He's replaceable." Replaceable. That word stung when she repeated it to me. Ava slammed her fist on the table, or as much as she could from her weakened state, via video link. "He saved my life when none of you did a damn thing. Image! I'll handle the image! Find him! Now!" But the board resisted, citing internal reviews, anonymous complaints. One even suggested editing the video further to protect her. Ava saw red. She fired off emails from her bed, pulling strings with her contacts, digging into HR files herself. It took her 2 days to track my address, old payroll stubs, leading to my rundown building in Queens. Meanwhile, I was sinking. Eli came home with a note from school, overdue fees for his program. "Dad, can I stay home with you tomorrow?" he asked innocently. I hugged him tight, fighting tears. "We'll figure it out, champ." That night I scoured job sites again, the leaky faucet dripping like a countdown. I had no idea a knock was coming, the kind that would shatter the silence of my isolation. When Eli scampered to the door and swung it open there, she stood, Ava Delacroix, still pale from her ordeal. Her designer coat draped over hospital scrub's eyes, locked on mine with a determination that made my heart skip. "Mr. Gray," she said, stepping inside without invitation, "we need to talk." She stepped into my dingy apartment like she owned the place, which, in a way, she did, being the CEO of a company that could buy out my whole block without blinking. Ava Delacroix, still looking a bit frail in her tailored coat over what I guessed were hospital clothes, stood there in my cluttered living room. Eli peeked from behind me wide-eyed, but she ignored the mess, the takeout boxes, the stack of unpaid bills on the table, and zeroed in on me. "Mr. Gray," she said, her voice steady despite the shadows under her eyes, "you saved my life, and they've treated you like garbage for it." I froze, my hand still on the doorknob. No one had ever shown up at my door like this, least of all someone from her world. I just did what anyone would," I stammered, but she cut me off with a hug, tight, unexpected, like she was holding on for dear life. Eli's jaw dropped, and I felt my cheeks burn. "No," she whispered. "Not anyone. You." She pulled back her eyes, fierce. "I saw the footage. The real one, not the edited crap they're circulating. You performed perfect CPR. The doctor said another minute and I'd be gone." I shrugged, rubbing my neck. "I got certified years ago. It stuck." But she wasn't having it. "Come with me," she said. "We're fixing this now." I hesitated. Eli needed dinner, and I wasn't sure about dragging him into this mess, but he tugged my sleeve. "Go, Dad. You're a hero." That kid always wiser than his years. I nodded, grabbed my coat, and followed her to the waiting black SUV. The next day, she dragged me to a press conference at Medina Capital's headquarters. I'd never been in the lobby during daylight hours without a mop in hand. Reporters swarmed the atrium, cameras flashing like lightning. Ava stood at the podium, poised as ever, while I hung back in the wings, feeling like an imposter in my best shirt, the one with only a small stain from Eli's spaghetti. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice echoing off the glass walls, "last week, I suffered a cardiac arrest in our boardroom. No one knew what to do, except one man, Bernard Gray, our night janitor." The room buzzed. She detailed it all, the collapse, the panic, my intervention. "He administered CPR, flawlessly keeping me alive until help arrived. And how did we repay him? By firing him based on a twisted rumor." Gasps rippled through the crowd. She played the full security footage, no edits, showing every compression, every breath I gave. This wasn't assault. This was heroism. Then came the bombshell. Effective immediately, Bernard Gray is appointed as Emergency Safety Advisor at Medina Capital with a salary of $180,000 annually, full benefits, and on-site training. He'll lead our new initiative mandatory CPR certification for every employee from the boardroom to the basement. The applause was deafening, but I barely heard it. My mind raced. $180,000, training Eli could go to a better school, maybe even camp this summer. Ava turned to me, motioning me forward. I stepped up awkward under the lights. I didn't do it for recognition, I said into the mic, my voice cracking. I did it because she needed help. Anyone in my shoes would have. But the questions flew. How does it feel to be a hero? What's next for you? I glanced at Ava, who nodded encouragingly. Behind the scenes, the real twist unfolded. Ava had launched an internal investigation overnight. 3 board members, the ones who'd pushed for my firing, were escorted out by security that afternoon. For mishandling the crisis and prioritizing optics over ethics, she announced in a company-wide email. The HR director issued a public apology admitting the video had been manipulated by someone anonymous to stir drama. Policies changed, no more anonymous complaints without verification, and a new whistleblower line for staff like me. As the press dispersed, Ava pulled me aside in a quiet hallway. "You didn't just save me," she said softly. "You exposed the rot in my own company. Thank you." I met her eyes, seeing gratitude mixed with something deeper, respect, maybe even friendship. "Just glad you're okay," I replied. For the first time in years, I felt seen not as the guy with the mop, but as Bernard Gray, father survivor. Walking out of that building head high, I knew the tide had turned. But the real victory. Telling Eli over pizza that night, buddy, things are changing for us. Gviet fun 5-6 months flew by in a whirlwind I could barely keep up with. There I was standing at the front of a sleek training room in Medina Capital's headquarters, facing a group of employees from entry-level admins to suited VPs, all scribbled notes in hand. The banner behind me read, "Human First Life-Saving Skills for All." I adjusted my tie, still feeling a bit out of place in the crisp shirt and slacks that came with my new role as Emergency Safety Advisor. "Remember, I said, my voice steadier than I'd expected. It's not about being a hero, it's about acting when no one else does." They nodded, and for the first time I saw respect in their eyes, not pity, not suspicion. The job had transformed everything. With the salary Ava promised, $180,000 a year, I'd moved Eli and me to a brighter apartment near a park in Queens, one with actual windows that let in sunlight instead of just street lamp glow. No more leaky faucets or ramen dinners. Eli started at a better school, one with after-class programs where he could play soccer without me worrying about the cost. He thrived, his laughter filling the space like it hadn't in years. I'd even enrolled in formal training courses, brushing up on emergency protocols, turning that dusty CPR cert into something real. Medina had changed too. Every employee now got mandatory life-saving classes, and the board's shake-up sent ripples through the company. No more sweeping issues under the rug. Ethics audits became routine, and even the janitors, my old crew, got a voice in safety meetings. Ava and I, well, we weren't what people whispered about in the break rooms. No romance, no fairy tale ending there. But a friendship bloomed quiet and steady. Every morning a steaming cup of coffee appeared on my desk. No sugar, extra cream, just how I liked it. She'd send it anonymously at first, but I knew. Evenings she'd video call Eli and me, challenging him to online chess games. "You're getting better, kid," she'd say with a grin, her sharp eyes softening. Eli adored her, asking questions about her world that made her laugh a sound I bet few at the office ever heard. One night, as we sat on our new couch overlooking the park, Eli turned to me mid-game. "Dad, is Ava your girlfriend?" His innocent curiosity caught me off guard. I chuckled, ruffling his hair. "Nah, buddy. She's the lady I saved once, and then she saved us right back." He tilted his head. "How I paused, glancing at the city lights twinkling outside. By seeing me, not the uniform, not the rumors, she gave us a chance when no one else would. Eli nodded satisfied and went back to his homework. As he drifted off later, I sat by the window, the weight of the past lifting a little more. Sarah's memory still ached, a quiet shadow in my heart, but saving Ava had reminded me that good deeds echo. I'd pulled her back from the edge, and in return she'd yanked me out of mine. Looking back, society loves to judge by the clothes you wear, the job you hold, the surface stuff. But that day on the polished floor taught me otherwise. It's the actions, the split-second choices to help that define us. If you've ever been written off because of your role, your background, know this one act can rewrite the story. Share yours if it resonates. Maybe it'll inspire someone else. And if you're reading this, wondering if kindness pays off, it does in ways you can't imagine.